Hi, this is Carly Opson at the University of Arizona, your instructor for SERP 590 Single Case Research Design. This is going to be a short video to help you understand with your research question you're using during this semester, kind of how to pull it apart and how to think about it in terms of baseline and intervention. And in particular, this week, we're going to look at measurement of the dependent and independent variables. We'll come back to this particular research question and this sheet that we're working on with data collection and its associated graph to talk about other things in the semester. But this week, measurement of your dependent and independent variables. So let me set this up for you. Let's imagine we're working with a student who has vision problems. And frankly, most kids or adults who have vision problems have low vision. They're not totally blind, but they have real vision problems that reduce the level of their functional vision. And one way you might be thinking to improve their functional vision is to provide adequate light. Okay? Seems like a real simple issue, but it's an important one. And so in this case, the research question would be, does providing additional light in a room increase reading rate for a young child? So imagine you are consulting with a teacher and they have a child who has vision problems, and you're going to suggest adding additional light source to see if that helps the child discriminate on the page. Okay. So in this case, you have two conditions. You have a baseline condition where there's not good light in the room, and you provide the child with a reading passage, and then you measure the rate of that child's reading of that passage, and then you summarize it on the graph. And that's exactly what we've done here. So here it would be a rate of 30 words a minute. Okay? So that is this particular series of data right here. Okay? Dependent variable is reading rate, right? During intervention, you would change the level of light. You would provide an increase in light. That's the only thing that changes within your condition, within your procedures, right? So we then collect data again on the dependent variable, and we see the child has a higher rate of reading. And because we want to show that we have experimental control, we take away that light and go back to our condition A or baseline. And because we don't want to be unethical and because we want to demonstrate again that this works, we go back to condition B. This is what's called showing experimental control. Okay, so each time that we as the experimenter show that we can change the conditions, and those conditions will change the behavior, we've demonstrated experimental control. So we do that here from baseline to intervention. We do it again, going from intervention back to baseline, and we do it a third time, going from baseline back to an intervention phase. Right? So we're demonstrating experimental control. The other thing you've got to do with your dependent variable, and you've probably done this if you already are practicing out in the field as a BCBA, is you want to get inter-observer agreement. That's IOA. And what that means is that we want to get data to show that we're actually measuring our dependent variable accurately, so that someone from the outside could say, hey, did you really measure the reading rate correctly? Maybe you screwed it up. So to cover that, during 1/3 of every trial, or 1/3 of the trials in each condition, right? At least 1/3. We have another observer look at our data and score the child's reading rate in this case. So here, there's 95% agreement on the reading rate between a secondary person scoring the sheet and the person who's scoring the sheet that would regularly do it, if it's you or if it's the teacher. Okay, and so if I'm saying in general 1/3 of the times, here there are 5 sessions, and so we are doing this 4 out of 10 sessions, or 2 out of 5, 4 out of 10, 40% of sessions. So that's over 30%. That's great. Really, frankly, you should do it like every other day, and then you're covered. Okay? So you can see again, during intervention, we come through here to do inter-observer agreement. We have a secondary person double checking on our measurement. Okay? The third thing that you always going to want in a study, a single case study, and this is the one that you probably don't already do if you are working in the field, is treatment integrity, okay, or procedural fidelity is what it's also called. And what this means is some proof that you actually took the steps in the study that you say you're going to take. So during the baseline condition, let's say you create for this, you might create a little worksheet that lists the steps in your intervention, all right, or the steps in your procedure. So during baseline, the steps in the procedure are the teacher gives the child the reading passage. The teacher ensures that the lighting is low. The teacher tells the child the directions for the session. The teacher starts the session. The teacher stops the session. The teacher summarizes the data. Okay. You could put that all in a list, and then this person, this IOA person, the secondary person who's coming in, they're checking off as each one, teacher's doing each one of those things in your procedural list and saying, but by the time you're done, you can look at it and say, yep, during that particular session, the person did exactly in the baseline procedures what they were supposed to do. You do the same thing going into intervention, but then you just, right, you change that one thing that changes your condition, which is providing additional light in the room. So you just make sure that instead the teacher ensures that there's additional lighting, and that is what's on your checklist. Okay. In this case, we see that 100% of the time the teacher is implementing as they're supposed to. Now, this gets really important. Some of you are looking at having parents implement, having paraprofessionals implement, because a lot of you work with others who are doing implementation. You work as consultants. So this step actually is pretty important in the work you do. So that's all I have for right now. We'll come back to this particular case again, and we'll come back to talk about things like social validity. We'll come back to talk about things like threats to your study and how that could play out in a case like this. But for this situation, I just want you to understand that your research question, it has that dependent variable, and we've got to measure that. And it has an independent variable, your intervention, and we've got to measure that. And we also have to measure the reliability of our measurement of the dependent variable, and that is the inter-observer agreement. Okay? So watch the longer video about data collection in single case designs, and I'll be back with you to talk about this research question another time, okay? Take care.